Hey there, and welcome to The Explainer. As an educator, I hear the exact same confession from adults all the time. I haven't used math since high school. But today, we're totally demystifying basic math for adults returning to school, or really just anyone wanting to shake off the rust. We're going to show you how you're actually using these concepts every single week. We're drawing all of this from an incredibly practical guide called the Math Refresher Workbook for adults returning to school. So, let's just dive right in. When was the last time you used algebra? Seriously, think about it for a second. If you're like most folks, your brain probably jumps to, the day of my final exam and literally never again. We all have this kind of deep-seated assumption that school math is locked away in some dusty textbook, completely divorced from real life. But actually, scratch that. What if I told you that you intuitively do algebra, calculate percentages, and solve proportions on a weekly, maybe even daily basis? You're already doing it. You just might not use the formal textbook labels anymore. Decimals in your wallet. Let's start with something we absolutely all care about, our money. Dealing with cash is, at its core, just working with decimals. The workbook hits the nail on the head here. You use decimals every day without even batting an eye. When a price tag says $2.50, mathematically, that's just 2.5. Whether you're groaning at fuel costs at the gas pump or grabbing a quick coffee, that little decimal is just helping us understand parts of a whole dollar in a super simple, universal way. If you have $1.25 in your pocket and $5.50 at home, what is your total cash? Let's ground this with a real-world budgeting scenario straight from the workbook. Imagine you're emptying your pockets at the end of the day. You find $1.25. You know for a fact you've got exactly $5.50 sitting in a jar at home. What's the total? It's an everyday question, sure, but answering it means you're using a fundamental math skill, adding decimals. Step 1. Add zeros to match digits after the decimal. Step 2. Line up the decimals. Step 3. Add the numbers together. The crucial thing here is setting it up so we never make a mistake. The workbook breaks this down step by step so it feels totally approachable, especially if math makes you a little anxious. Just pad it with zeros so the lengths match. Remember the golden rule to vertically line up those little dots, and then just add them up like regular whole numbers. $1.25 plus $5.50 equals $6.75. When we stack these up, we've got 1.25 on top and 5.50 right below it. The decimals are perfectly lined up. 5 plus 0 is 5, 2 plus 5 is 7, drop the decimal point straight down, and 1 plus 5 is 6. $6.75. It proves that just a simple rule of alignment takes all the stress out of the calculation. You think you're just budgeting, but hey, you're actually doing formal decimal addition. And the workbook gives you great decimal addition practice, testing exactly what we just did. It's really interesting to see how the book actually structures this to build your skills. It gives you raw equations like 8.89 plus 1.12, so you can practice lining up those dots on the page yourself. Doing this kind of repetitive practice gives you immediate feedback. It builds that foundational confidence you really need before tackling the heavy stuff. Slicing up percentages, let's transition to a concept we bump into literally all the time. Whether you're figuring out a massive holiday discount or doing the quick math for a tip at a restaurant, you are working with percentages. It's one of those everyday, incredibly practical skills that can save you real money if you know how to wield it. Percentage, a portion of a whole relative to 100, literally translating to per hundred. The workbook lays down this crystal-clear definition. A percentage is just expressing a piece of a whole relative to 100. So next time you see that little symbol, just tell your brain, okay, this is just a fraction where the total on the bottom is exactly 100. Easy. A fraction, like 1/4 of a cake, versus a percentage, like 25% of a cake. This is a brilliant way to illustrate the concept, using something we all love, cake. If you have 1/4 of a cake, how do you make that a percentage? Well, just imagine that same cake was sliced into exactly 100 tiny pieces. 1/4 of those 100 pieces would be 25 slices. Those 25 pieces out of 100 are expressed as 25%. Same exact amount of cake, just a different way of describing your slice. Ratios at the grocery store. Now let's step out of the bakery and into the grocery aisles to tackle ratios and proportions. We use these constantly when we're estimating costs or trying to figure out if that massive bulk buy is actually a good deal. A ratio is just comparing two quantities, right? And a proportion is just seeing how that ratio scales up or down. If 30 loaves of bread cost $90, how much would 15 loaves cost? Here's a super practical scenario from the book. Let's say you're shopping for a giant event, and you see 30 loaves of bread going for $90. But wait, you only need 15 loaves. How much is that going to cost? You could totally just guess. But using a simple proportion gives you the exact number so you don't blow your budget. Step 1. Figure out the ratio of loaves to total cost. Step 2. Use the ratio to estimate the new cost. Let's quickly walk through the logic. First, you want to find the base cost. How much does one single loaf cost? Once you nail down that base unit price, step 2 is simply using that ratio to estimate the cost for literally any amount you want to throw in your cart. Ratio of 1 to 3, meaning one loaf is $3. So we take our 30 loaves for $90. If we divide 90 by 30, we get 3. That means our simplified ratio is 1 to 3. One loaf of bread costs exactly $3. Being able to visualize this true cost per item, that is the absolute secret weapon of a smart shopper. $45. Now that we know each loaf is $3 and we need 15 loaves, we just multiply 15 by 3. And boom, there's our answer, $45. You literally just solved a mathematical proportion. By finding that unit rate and scaling it to what you needed, you proved that solving proportions is just everyday price comparison. You probably do it without even thinking. Algebra in the kitchen and beyond. Okay, brace yourselves. We are introducing the most intimidating topic for adult learners, algebra. But honestly, the workbook frames it so perfectly. Algebra isn't just a bunch of scary, abstract rules. It's just a really handy way to convert everyday word statements and real-life situations into math problems you can easily solve. Variables, letters like x and y used in equations because their values are unknown or not fixed. To demystify algebra, we first have to demystify why the alphabet crashed math class. Why use letters? Well, letters like x and y are variables. We use them simply because their values are unknown or haven't been fixed yet. They're literally just empty placeholders waiting for a number. They help us generalize a situation so we can apply it later. A bag with 3 apples, 2 pears, and 5 bananas costs $12. How do we write this? Let's see it in action. Imagine you have a grocery bag with 3 apples, 2 pears, and 5 bananas, and the cashier says your total is $12. How would you write this out mathematically? Believe it or not, you're already doing multivariable algebra in your head when you scan your receipt. 3a plus 2p plus 5b equals 12. Mathematically, it looks just like this. It looks like high school algebra, but it's just your produce. The A stands for the price of an apple. The P is the pear's price, and the B is the banana's price. The numbers 3, 2, and 5 are the constants, the exact number of fruit you grabbed. See? Not so scary. A recipe needs 3 eggs to make half a batch of ice cream. How many for the whole batch? Let's step into the kitchen for a sec, because algebra is constantly at work in there. You're looking at a recipe that needs 3 eggs to make half a batch of homemade ice cream. But you've got friends coming over, so you need the whole batch. How many eggs? 0.5e equals 3. You probably instantly knew the answer in your gut, but here is the formal algebra you just performed in your brain. 0.5e equals 3. The e is our variable, the total unknown number of eggs for a full batch. The 0.5 is the half batch, which we know takes 3 eggs. 6. To solve it, you simply divide 3 by 0.5, which gives you 6. You effortlessly knew you needed 6 eggs, which means you are already successfully doing algebra. You took a real-world scenario, intuitively built an equation, solved for an unknown variable, and figured out your ingredient count. Boom. The 30-day math refresher challenge. Now, if seeing how much math you already naturally do has you feeling a little inspired, the workbook offers something really fantastic, the 30-day math refresher challenge. It's specifically designed to take all these intuitive, everyday skills of yours and solidify them into formal, confident math knowledge. Test your foundation, find your strengths, identify weaknesses, get immediate feedback, and build confidence. The benefits of a structured challenge like this are massive, especially if you're returning to school or just trying to shake off that deep-seated math anxiety. You test your foundation with zero judgment. You find your strengths. Maybe you're a wizard at ratios, but decimals trip you up. It identifies those weak spots, gives you immediate feedback, and ultimately builds totally unshakable confidence. Are you ready to master the math you're already doing? We've covered decimals in your budget, percentages in your discounts, and algebra in your cooking. The truth is, math isn't some forgotten foreign language. It's the logic you already use to navigate life every single day. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with this. Since you're already doing the math, are you finally ready to open a workbook, master the rules, and conquer those math fears once and for all?